Okay, I am excited to be here today with my friend Mo Bunnell, who has a great new book out. It is called The Snowball System: How to Win More Business and Turn Clients into Raving Fans. And we all want raving fans, right? And I just join me as we talk about the book and about what he's doing. Join me in saying hello to Mo Bunnell.
Oh, thanks, Darcy. This is going to be fun. I've known you for so long and respect what you're doing. It's going to be neat to sort of join forces today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So, congratulations on the book. I know that you have been not only doing some of this work back when we used to work together in a large global consulting firm, but on your own in your own company and really experimenting with some of these different ideas. So, tell me a little bit before we talk about the snowball system. Tell me a little bit about you and your journey to get here.
Wow. I'd be happy to. And I think it all relates. There's a storyline here that's sort of interesting. When we worked together, we were at a big consulting firm, and I had been an actuary, right? We can't say that too close to the beginning, or nobody will watch this, right? So
I
hopefully
have a lot of
they've seen us
actuaries that
smile enough.
follow me. Yeah.
It's so funny. And the month after I passed all these actuarial exams to take me from, sort of an inch wide to a mile deep, I was asked to move, and we had it orchestrated, but I was asked to move to a broader role where I was sort of an inch deep and a mile wide. And I had to represent all of the organization services, a couple hundred in total across a dozen or so practices. And I went from the past was getting paid for and rewarded for great client service and this deep technical skill I had by passing all the actuarial exams. And in the future, I was going to be rewarded on client growth. And I didn't have a system for doing that. I asked a boss, hey, how do we do this really well? And he's an awesome guy, still to keep in touch with, but he sort of said, you treat the client right. And I got a sort of a slap on the back. I was lucky to have some great mentors, but I felt like I wanted to have a system, something in writing. And what started as a few handwritten notes became a small Word document and a larger Word document, and ended up becoming the beginnings of what ended up being the snowball system. And that sort of fear of used to being rewarded one way and now having to be focused on business development and growth and being proactively helpful, that fear of making that transition was sort of the genesis to writing the book and creating a system for proactive growth that's helpful to all involved.
Yeah, because the thing that you say in the book, and I've heard you say this before, and I know I've said it in my own journey, and I know a lot of the people that I work with through Red Cape Revolution say this. It's like, I didn't learn whatever my profession was, my craft, my profession, to go out and sell or to go out and develop new business. I just wanted to do this thing in my expertise. But one of the things that you're talking about in the snowball system and some of the things that you teach are that, even if we are really deep, we're always going to have to expand that to a new way of selling, to a new way of developing. So tell me a little bit about that transition. You mentioned your own transition, but tell me what you're seeing out there from people who are really good experts in what they do, but now having demands to do more.
Oh man. Well, you're an inspiration to so many people because you've done it. And so few people have been able to succeed like you have. And it comes down to sort of putting two things together. One is falling in love with a core discipline, a core craft, something that you can be a really, really deep expert in, that they want your advice on that core craft because you're really great at it. You've seen it all, and you have this strong desire to help people within the boundaries of that craft. For you to help people figure out what they want to do with their life and their career and things like that, that's a gift. That's an expertise that few people have. And then if we can take whatever a person's core craft is and not shy away from it, but be excited about bolting on the craft of business development, of finding people and talking to them that need that expertise. That's where the magic really happens. Folks that only have the BD side, but no deep expertise, sort of can turn into sort of the hollow salesperson that sort of flinging things at people, but not adding a lot of value. Somebody with a lot of the expertise, but that doesn't have the ability to find people to hire them for it. That's a problem, because you end up being sort of stuck in a room somewhere wishing you had people to talk to. It's putting the two together where the magic happens, and people that have the expertise and ability to BD, that's just unstoppable.
Yeah. And one of the things, you had mentioned this before, but when I read the book, it also struck me that this wasn't just for people for professionals who have to sell externally, because there's a lot of people that I talk to that they need to, and we'll call it selling. It may not be money transacted, but they have to promote influence internally as well. And I know that you're having a lot of conversations with people about that.
Well, without a doubt. So this has really sort of been a lot of fun. So we've trained these 12,000 experts, if we call them experts or seller experts all over the world. Almost all of them are folks that are in externally facing roles. And our training is such that most of the people that have external roles are drawn towards that. What the book has opened up, because it's inexpensive, it's less than $20, is a lot of folks that have internally facing roles, but they're in the business of influence as well. They've really learned that these same tools and techniques are important for them. Without it, they can sort of become reactive. They can sort of fall into the trap of just being the order taker. Say you're in IT or HR or marketing, you can easily fall into the trap of just taking the orders from your internal customers, but those may not be the most powerful ways you can be helpful to your internal customers. So those same folks that have an internal depth of expertise in HR, marketing, IT, finance, whatever, if they can learn these skills of influence, if you will, if we broaden the topic from BD, business development, to influence, they can learn those skills. Now they've got a chance to help their organizations in brand new, more proactive, more big ways, and help everybody as they do that.
And another way that this intersects with some of the things that I've been talking about is I worry that there are a lot of really good professions that are starting to become commoditized, that leaders who are not deep in those professions think, well, oh, I can hire that online, or I can outsource that. And so the people that are using techniques like these, or people who want to build those skills, I think really benefit from some of these techniques to stand out, to be, in service through your profession, and not just to be the order taker, as you were saying before.
Exactly. It puts you in the role of the advisor. A lot of people use words like trusted advisor and becoming a role where you're helping others very proactively in a very meaningful way. And that just can't be accomplished if you're an order taker. Because if you're an order taker, the only thing you can be judged on is how quick and how accurate were my responses. That's not where you want to be. I mean, that's an okay place, I guess, but it's much more powerful to be in a role with somebody, one of your internal clients or external, where you're advising them in very, very deep and meaningful ways that are making them more successful. And then that's creating pull-through demand for your services.
Yeah. Race to the bottom to be fastest and cheapest.
Yeah.
You're never going to do it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the system. So let's dive in a little bit more to some of the core elements of the system. First of all, why Snowball?
Well, the metaphor here is that people that want to grow their influence typically want something really big to happen. But usually if they go in guns a-blazing trying to get the really big thing to happen right out of the gate, it's just met with no. Like, oh, we can't do that. We don't have the resources. We don't have the budget, things like that. And one of our clients long ago used these 6 words that I thought were so powerful. Think big, start small, scale up. Think big, start small, scale up. I just love it. And that conjured up this image of a snowball where we want to have this really big impact later on, and we want momentum to carry us almost like we're unstoppable. But the way you start is by at the top of the hill, building that little snowball and starting it rolling. And in the beginning, it's hard. You're smashing snow together. Snow's heavy. You might have to get some people to help you. But as you get going, it starts to take on its own momentum, to an extent that sometimes really big initiatives, once started, just sort of roll on their own. So that's why we sort of thought of that metaphor is the idea of hard in the beginning. You got to start with, just a few handfuls of snow packing it together. But if you choose your team wisely and sort of the hill you're on and things like that, then you can start very, very big initiatives small and get them growing, and then they take off on their own.
And I think it's such a wise lesson for us to remember. And I mean, it sounds like common sense, but so many times we get caught up in, we have that bigger vision, or we want that bigger project, or that dollar sign, or whatever. And yet we get so discouraged because it just seems so far away, instead of recognizing that it does have to build and it does have to grow. And in the book, you talk about really, there's three things that you're doing in that snowball phase, that you're managing your opportunities, you're managing the relationships, and then also managing yourself. So tell me a little bit about managing the opportunities to begin with. How do we start to pack that snow together and even know, is this the hill that I want to roll down?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And we can even go into a little bit of some of the science behind why this works as well. That's in the book, because we talk a lot about the behavioral science of why people say yes to one thing and no to another. But in managing your opportunities, we see a couple key steps that have to happen. The first is, to be really effective at this, you have to write them down. You can't just manage, where you want to take your career or your internal clients or your external clients. You can't manage that in your head. You've got to sort of write down what your opportunities are. And we take a broad view of opportunities. So if I'm in an external business development role, opportunities aren't just getting folks to buy my services. They're also conferences I might want to speak at, or strategic partners I want a relationship with that could provide referrals. So we want to think of opportunities really broadly. And then once we've got them written down and we've thought broadly about them, the key couple steps are to listen and learn to our constituents, to start with them. We talk a lot in the book about giving somebody the birthday experience, making it about them, not us. And we've got to start with them. Research by Diana Tamir has found that people, when they're talking about their own opinions about things, where they want to take them, the pleasure center of their brain starts lighting up. So to give them that birthday experience, we need to start with them, not like a 25-page PowerPoint about us first. that's going to get us nowhere.
Such a mistake that people make in presentations, right? It's like, nobody cares that you've been in business for 20 years or what your thing is. It's all about, get them talking, get them moving forward. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. When we were in business in the 1990s together, those same boring PowerPoints were there, and they were the same format. Like, look, we've got mission and values, and here's our client logos. And I know it's horrible. So we want to start with them. From our side, we want to listen and learn. Then we talk a lot in the book about each step, but then we want to create curiosity about how we can help them solve their problems and move their agenda forward. But we're going to use their words in their priorities, not our boring PowerPoint first. And then after that, there's a specific way we found, and this is on the book as well, of how do you build everything together with your internal, your external client, so that they're really excited. How do we get little incremental yeses using some science called the IKEA effect, largely led by Dan Ariely and Michael Norton out of Duke and Harvard, about how people that have incremental yeses and help sort of shape a project, if you will, that they're going to be super excited about it, rather than us just creating the whole thing and then trying to get a yes over the whole thing. We want little yeses along the way. And we talk about the specific 4 steps to go through that. Then the last piece is we get approval. And what we found is if people can start with the other, listen and learn, create curiosity on how we can help them solve their problems using their words and their priorities, then build everything together around how we would do that together, everybody else that needs to be involved, then the gaining approval part's pretty easy. It's when people try to skip from, I've got a PowerPoint, do you want my stuff? It's when people do that it doesn't work out so well.
Right. Well, and I think in a lot of these cases, in most of the work we're doing today, it's knowledge work, it's complex. And even sometimes we're selling things that we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen between point A and point Z. And so getting that involvement, getting that connection, getting all those little micro yeses, really helps it not to be your thing. It becomes our thing.
Oh,
So
I like that. That's so well done. I can
uh,
tell you have a communications
you
background.
think so? Maybe. So I've worked with a salesperson a time or two. So
Just once or twice.
well, and I remember this. So yeah, so you said you and I have known each other for many years, got a chance to work together. But one of the things when you went out on your own, we had had lunch, and I was still working at our large consulting firm, and I had never envisioned for myself having my own business, nor do I think it's something everybody should do or can do. But
Right.
one of the things that you did say is, I said, well, so how are you? How are you getting opportunities? How are things coming along? And you said, I'm I'm giving things away. I'm giving people things they need. I'm serving them first, and there's a trust aspect there, not only of trusting your potential client, but trusting yourself. And I wonder if you could talk about that when we talk about relationships, that, sometimes we have to give a little bit more than I think today in our corporate environments we're being encouraged to give. But so I don't know if that's not a necessarily concise and clear question, but talk about the giving to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. And I'll specifically put it in the context of relationships, like you said, managing relationships being a big important part of the snowball system. The context first, and then to give the relationships are so important to manage proactively, because all the science shows we'll just be sort of whipped into spending time with people that we come into contact already. The same parents that are on our kids' soccer team, the person we just happen to have an office next to at work, things like that are going to be the number one correlation between who we spend time with. And so we've got to have a system to steer our time to folks that we need to spend time with, those that are our bosses, the decision makers, partners that can provide referrals, third-party influencers, folks like that. And if we don't focus on relationships, we'll just be whipped into the people we come in contact because the world says so. So to your point around give to gets, if we've got a list of those that we want to establish relationships with, and we want to foster those, giving is probably the number one thing we can do to deepen relationships. And we're not just going to give randomly, like, hey, here's tickets to the baseball game.
Right.
But we're talking about, like you said before, giving away our big brain, giving away our expertise, finding strategic ways, say in 30 or 1 hour, 30-minute or 1 hour buckets at a time, how can I figure out where that person's trying to go with their life and their career, and finding ways with my expertise, I can give them sort of a taste of the experience of what it's like working with me, and 100% focus on them, 100% help them. And what we find then is two things happen. One is we deepen the relationship because we've given first. And two is, now that they've been exposed to what we do, there's a higher likelihood that they want more of it and they would purchase it, or they would advise others to purchase it, as opposed to talking about what we do. We're going to do what we do, give it away in little chunks, and then all those good things happen downstream.
And today, even as fast-paced and competitive and all those different, cliche words that you put together with business, that piece of generosity, that piece of saying, I'm here to serve whoever shows up and however it shows up. But there's the piece of in your system that I think is really useful and interesting is there's also intentionality. I think we just saw your wife go by there. So
like that YouTube video where, like, this is going to sound bad, but because I'm not comparing my wife to a monkey, but there's a YouTube video where you're supposed to, like, count the balls or something, and a monkey walked past and no one sees it. I promise I wasn't calling you a monkey.
That was not what he meant. That was not what he meant. Get you out of trouble.
It just reminded me of that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have a test for whoever saw, if they can identify what she was wearing. So.
That's right.
Yeah. So, one of the quotes that you had that I loved in the book, because I'm going to steal this totally, is that spontaneity is the Tabasco of client relationships. And
yes.
So talk a little bit about, there's a lot of tools that people can have to think about building relationships, but the idea of spontaneity is an interesting one. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I'd love to. I'll tell you, whenever we're teaching our classes and we're talking about relationship skills,
Hi,
it's so fun.
Becky.
Almost every class, probably, this is probably more consistent than any other question I can think of right now. But I think in almost every class, someone asked this question. Gosh, I really liked Jane. I worked with Jane 10 years ago. And Jane's been climbing the ladder like crazy. She's now CEO of company ABC. But I feel bad about reaching out to Jane because I haven't reached out. And now I feel like a heel, if I reach out now. But to your point around spontaneity being so important, the Tabasco of relationships, now's a great time to reach out with Jane. In fact, it's the best time of the next 5 years to reach out is right now. No matter what the situation is, because if you don't do it now, another day can go by, another week, another decade. And the idea of spontaneity is so powerful because the fact that Jane isn't expecting the outreach actually makes it sort of even better. It's sort of magical. Like, if nothing else, it's a quick email that says, hey, just saw you got promoted. I'm so excited for you. Just wanted to let you know I've been watching from over here in the bleachers, and I'm so happy you've had so much success. Just sending a little note like that, if it's truly authentic, if you really feel that way, then there's nothing wrong with that. And now that starts the dialogue. Jane's going to respond. And now you've got an opportunity to find some other way to be helpful other than just brightening her day. So there's I just love the idea of, if you're worried about reaching out to somebody, right now is a wonderful time to do it. And there's no better time than now than, say, waiting another 5 years.
Absolutely. I've even sometimes, and again, it has to be true, but just like, I was thinking about you today and remembering the
Exactly.
project that we did this or the story that we did that. And I, hope you were well. If you get a second to write back, love to hear from you. And same way for LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Sometimes people are trying to catch up on LinkedIn to be able to use and leverage that, but there are tools to be able to do that. So, so one of the things we could talk about the ideas in the book and talk about different stories, I'm sure for a long time, but for the sake of both our schedules and our listeners, viewers, you, in addition to, again, being, having a great book, there are some other resources that are connected to the Snowball system. So tell me more about those and how people can get a hold of those.
Oh yeah, two big ones. One is to get the book and all the resources surrounding it, they can just go to snowballsystem.com. Super easy. And when somebody buys the book, there's some URLs written in the copy of the book that'll take them to some specific pages that aren't, there's no navigation to it. So you got to buy the book to get them. But they can download over 20 different worksheets that help them implement every single aspect of the book. So there's a ton of, I think of it as more than a book, because there's all these worksheets and tools and a video that I give that helps people walk through it. So I think of it as like a total system for how you can expand your influence in a really positive way to make a difference in the world. Of course, you sort of the title and the subtitle is all about business development, but really it's about, more broadly speaking, influencing the world in a bigger and positive way. The second thing I'd bring up is we've got a free video series that people can get if they go to createdemandcourse.com, createdemandcourse.com. And when they first sign up, the videos are delivered by email. There's an 8-part series on create demand. That's why we named it createdemandcourse.com. What a great idea. And that 8-part series walks through some of the things we've talked through today, but in a lot more detail. And those 3 to 5 minute videos, those first 8, are dropped right in your inbox. And then they come with some worksheets too. So even if somebody didn't have the $20 to buy the book, they could get the free worksheets and get a lot of value out of that too. The two together, really powerful.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact, and thank you for the generosity of all those tools, because there are times when, if you're learning how to do this, or you're trying to think differently or bigger, and even for the people around you might be saying, oh, why are you spending all that time? Just go away and make the sale, or, oh, we just need to get to that destination. But you've got some ways for someone to be able to think through it, think intentionally about, okay, this person, how do they think? what are they going to react to? What's the relationship that I have versus what I want to have?
Right.
And I really like the intentionality of some of those tools, especially for those of us who, maybe sometimes we try to do it on the fly, but then life gets in the way. So to have a roadmap is what you've given in a lot of the different tools. And I've been diving into them myself. So thank you for those. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, we put so much time into that. When we got a major book deal through Hachette, one of the things I wanted to do right out of the gate was not just write a book, but give people the whole system. So I'm getting tons of emails. The book's only been out about 3 weeks, but I'm getting tons of emails from folks saying, hey, I was on a flight, I downloaded the whole toolkit, I printed them off, they'll send pictures like, I've got them in this folder. Here's my folder about. So then when they're reading the book, they've got the worksheets right then and there. They close the book, pause that, come over here, fill out, maybe it's a lead gen tool, or maybe it's a how do I communicate better tool, the example you gave, or maybe it's their list of opportunities or relationships with specific steps and what to do precisely next to keep those moving forward proactively. Whatever the tool is, when people are going through the book, they've got those resources right there to help them implement. And that's one of the things I really wanted to do with the book is not just give people ideas. I think that's great, but give them ideas they can implement. That's where the difference happens.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think the book is terrific. There's a lot of great resources. I've always learned from you, and you've been a person to help me build my skills in being able to influence and share my story with others and do it in hopefully a generous and authentic way. So I thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time and energy to be here with us today, as well as for all the work you put into the book. So Mo Bunnell, where can people find more about you?
Oh, they can just go to mobunnell.com. So it's M-O. You could probably spell Mo and Bunnell each about 10 different ways. So it's M-O, just 2 words.
Find the book, and this will be backwards.
There you go.
But we will have links to that. But you were saying mobunnell.com.
You got it, mobunnell.com. And snowballsystem.com takes you to the same place. That's probably how I should have answered it, because you can only spell that one way. But, I have to say it, Darcy, you've been an inspiration to me because you were always such an amazing communicator. And you were one of the people that helped me foster my love of writing. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm a great writer. And I'm not sure I ever did, but I knew I needed help at it. And your ability to communicate with others, to put things in writing, to verbally communicate. I mean, your expertise around communication, and now these days, helping people sort of find their way, it's really powerful. And it's been so fun for me to sort of root on from the sidelines and watch you grow your career and establish even more preeminence in this field. It's been fun to watch. So thanks for having me.
Hey, well, thank you. And thanks for the kind words. And we'll just keep doing our good stuff and supporting each other and supporting everybody out there watching us. So again, the book's The Snowball System. Go pick it up, and wherever you're seeing this video, you'll also have other links so that you can find out more about Mo and the other work he's doing, including, I know you do some public workshops. If you want to, get really down deep and dirty in developing this, even more so than the book, really encourage you to check it all out. So Mo Bunnell and Becky Bunnell in the background. Thank you guys for being here today. Appreciate it.
Right. Thanks, Darcy. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.